The next step in the diagnosis is pressure testing. Pressure tests can pinpoint such problem areas as the pump and the throttle and governor systems. Pressure tests are extremely important and should be performed whenever possible. Pressure tests can tell us where to look for a problem. After all, fluid pressure controls most of the operations that take place in the transmission. With the vehicle on the lift, locate the transmission model and serial numbers and jot them down on the check sheet. Then copy down the minimum and maximum line pressure specs from the appropriate service manual. When the readings you get are in these ranges, you can eliminate key hydraulic systems as sources of trouble. Remember, that's what we want to do, to keep eliminating what's working right. Pressure tests can be performed during the road test or during the garage test. We'll do these in the garage. Our minimum test equipment is a vacuum gauge and a 300 psi pressure gauge. I hope you realize how much help these tools can provide. You should know the right tool to choose for diagnosing a specific complaint, how to use it for maximum results, and what the test results should be. Also be sure to observe all safety precautions and use appropriate safety equipment. We'll attach the pressure gauge to the mainline pressure tap. Make use of any other pressure taps a transmission provides as well. We'll use the vacuum gauge to measure the amount of vacuum available at the modulator. Our manual indicates it should be 18 inches mercury on this model. We'll start the engine and position the selector lever in drive. If we get less than 61 to 69 psi at hot engine idle, we'll have to find the cause and correct it, following the service manual. This reading's low. We'll check the minimum and full line pressures according to the service manual. For both tests, we'll set the parking brake, apply the vehicle brakes, take pressure readings in all gear ranges with the engine running at the proper RPM, in this case 1250, and compare the readings with the chart. The main line pressure is low in all ranges. Here's where our diagnostic charts come in handy. When we looked at the pressure at idle, we saw that the pressure was below specs. The pressure increased when we stepped on the gas, but it was still below specs. Now what does this tell us? First, the modulator system got the signal from the engine, so it's working. Second, the pressure regulator valve had to increase pressure, so it's working. Now look at the hydraulic diagnosis charts again. What else can cause low line pressure? The manual shows many different possible causes for this. These low line pressures tell us we have a hydraulic problem. From our diagnosis, it looks as if we'll have to pull the transmission. Another possible cause of low pressure is a sluggish pressure regulator valve. We know from checking the fluid that the dipstick had varnish on it. The varnish could be restricting the movement of the valve. We'll have to check this out during disassembly. If the line pressures had been normal, we'd use the manual to check power flow. Our next step is to remove the bottom pan to check for residue. When you do this, let the fluid run off slowly. Sure, it's a little messy, but if the fluid gushes down the drain, you've lost your evidence. So lower the pan carefully and look in it to see what's lying inside. Steel particles, bronze filings, paper, it could be many different things. Just identifying the type and amount of sediment in the pan can help you diagnose the problem. You'll learn from experience how much sediment is normal. Steel particles could indicate that the gears are going. Bronze filings, a bushing failure. And ground up fiber, a clutch failure. We've got some fiber pieces and aluminum chips. You can take this one step further and check the filter. Pull the filter off the unit and take it apart to see what's trapped inside. Paper-type microfilters on the newer transmissions trap much finer particles than the fine mesh screen filters on the older transmissions. We found more of the same, so we'll have to take the transmission out. Even when you've decided to remove the transaxle, your diagnosis shouldn't stop. During disassembly, look for damaged or worn parts, and check that parts contacted by a defective part haven't been damaged. New replacement parts will not mate properly with old worn parts. When we reassemble this transaxle, we want it to run right. Well, that should do it, but we're not done yet. We'll take the car for a short drive to make certain we've corrected the problem.